Hey, what's up guys? Rideshare guy here, and today I've got a video for you about why is it surging and I'm not getting any requests. So, if you've been driving for any amount of time, you probably noticed this happening to you. And surge is obviously important to a lot of drivers because you make more money during surge rides. And hopefully you've learned by now from watching my channel that you shouldn't be chasing the surge rides, but there are lots of times where you might find yourself sitting in a surge zone, and you may also notice that you're not getting any requests. So, if this is happening to you, you're probably wondering what the hell is happening, what gives. And the first thing you have to understand is that surge is actually a function of high passenger demand and low driver supply, right? So let's say there's low driver supply and that causes a 2x surge, right? So passengers are out requesting, but there aren't a lot of drivers. That could cause a surge because there's not enough drivers, right? So let's say that bumps it from a 1x, right, which is regular pricing, to 2x. Now, let's say that there's also super high passenger demand and low amount of drivers, low supply of drivers. That might bump it from a 2x to a 3x because of that additional high passenger demand. But what if it's just normal passenger demand, right? Or even no demand at all, right? Then in that case, since there's low supply of drivers, it could still be surging, right? So think about the situation where, surge, you sort of have these two components, right? So you could be sitting in a surge area and there just aren't any drivers around, right? And that causes a surge. But if there's no passengers requesting rides, you're not going to get a ride request. So that's sort of my theory as to why I think you could be sitting in a surge area and not be getting any requests. So if you're the only driver, you could basically see a surge because there's just not any other drivers and there's basically no passengers making requests at that point. If you're the only driver in that area and then that one passenger comes along and makes a request, then you can go and get that ride. But it could be 5-10 minutes, especially if you're in an area where there just aren't any passengers making requests and there just aren't any drivers. So that's sort of my theory. Another thing that could be happening is actually that passengers are waiting out surge, right? So if you've used the passenger app, which is something I definitely recommend, there's a notification feature now on the passenger side of the app that actually allows passengers to be notified when the surge drops, right? So if I'm a passenger and I log on to the Uber passenger app and I see that it's a 1.5 surge, I can select an app notification to hit me when, in the next 30 minutes, when surge pricing drops down to regular levels. And this is a feature obviously passengers are starting to use. As passengers kind of get more savvy about Uber, they're figuring out ways. They know that, hey, it peaks, just like drivers kind of figure it out, right? Like it might peak at 2 a.m. when the bars get out, but if you wait 5-10 minutes, it goes up, 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 and then passengers might know that, hey, if I don't request a ride right now, I'm gonna have to wait for 30-40 minutes, and they wait, right? Because they want to pay less money. Those who are willing to go now will request a ride. Now, the one thing you want to consider though is, let's say you're in a 1.5 surge area and you're not getting any requests. You can also be called out of that area, right? Because if let's say there's no drivers around, right? And you're in that 1.5 surge area and you get called to another area with no surge, right? And when the request comes in, you'll be able to see, hey, 1.5 surge, 0 surge, or whatever it is, regular fares. You see the type of request, Uber X or Uber Pool, whatever it is. Now you can obviously take that call if you're sitting in a surge area and you get called to an area without surge. You can take that call, but it means that you might miss out on a surge request in the area that you were in, right? So that's a big thing, right? You want to keep in mind, you don't want to chase the surge because by the time you get there, it may be gone and other drivers may be flocking to that area. But if you're already sitting in a surge area, you want to take advantage of that. So I definitely think that you should consider letting that request go, right? Now, if your acceptance rate is high, it definitely makes sense. You want to kind of selectively in these types of situations. That's why I try to accept every single ride so that when something like this does come up, I have the option to basically not accept that ride that's going to pull me out of surge and stay in that surge area hoping for a surge request. Now, how do I know that I might get a surge request if I stay in that area? Now, like we've kind of already discovered, you could be sitting in a surge area and not get that surge request, right? But one thing I like to do is that I'll go to the passenger side of the app and see how many other drivers are nearby me, right? So if I'm sitting in an area where it's surging but not getting any requests, I'll go and look and see, hey, are there 1 or 2 other drivers? Are there 5 or 10 other drivers? Because that helps me determine, hey, if there's a bunch of other drivers around me and it's surging and no one's getting any requests, something's up, you know what I mean? There might not be a lot of passenger requests coming in right now, especially if you're in an area or place or time that doesn't normally surge. So if you do get a call outside of that surge area, it might make sense to take it, right? Because even even if a call, even if a call does come in while you're in that surge area and there's a few other drivers there, if they're closer, they're going to get that request, right? So that's something to kind of consider, right? But let's say you're the only one sitting there in this huge surge area and you get a request outside the surge area, that's when it might make sense to ignore that request or to accept it and then cancel it, or call the passenger, let them know that you're too far away and they should re-request and call another driver, because then in that case you might have a better chance of getting that surge request while you're waiting if you're the only driver. So surge is sort of a complicated or it's a complicated thing, but you can really start to develop these patterns, right? You can really start to figure out these patterns and when it does and doesn't make sense to chase these surges, when you should leave the surge, and kind of hopefully this helps explain, because I know this has happened to me while I'm out driving and I suspect it's happened to a lot of you too. So if you've experienced something like this, definitely feel free to reach out to me. Let me know what happened in the comments. What's your experience been like? And definitely feel free to like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Look forward to hearing from you guys soon. Take care.